Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and today I want to describe do-it-yourself home techniques that Ayurveda used as a tool to kind of unveil and uncover the joy that waits inside of all of us. Different than happiness, which happens when good things happen, and unhappiness happens when bad things happen. It's sort of a deeper experience of joy, or what Ayurveda called bliss. But it's something that waits inside of us, and because it's so delicate and vulnerable, our mind protects it and covers it up and creates emotional armor and emotional blocks that keep us from having access to that deeper part of ourselves. And the goal of Ayurveda is to let who you truly are out. Ayurveda, Ayur means life, Veda means truth. It means the truth of your life and letting the truth of who you truly are out. So I talk a lot about that, and I've written articles about how to get rid of unwanted emotions and how to rewrite old patterns of behavior in your brain using many breathing techniques and herbs and things like that. But this particular video and article is about do-it-yourself home techniques using a mnemonic called click. And I love the idea that you can use click because we're constantly clicking things in our culture. So every time you click something on your computer or wherever, the TV or whatever, think of this mnemonic, and click means C for caring, L for love, I for introspection or self-inquiry, kind of looking within. And then the second C is for compassion. And then the final one is kindness. So it's caring for others, love, introspection or self-inquiry, compassion, and kindness. So let's talk a little bit about some of the science about click, right? So whenever you see that, think about how you can use click as a little memory tool to think about how to be more caring for others. You know, studies have shown that people who are more caring for others, they live longer and they get less sick. And that's been studied again and again and again. You'd be surprised at the volumes of science on these simple action steps that we can take to be caring for others, to love and support others, to be kind and compassionate. It's quite amazing. The benefits are well documented, and maybe we just need a bit of a reminder to go ahead and do that. People who live to be over 100 on a regular basis, the centenarians in the country, in the world, they have strong social bonds. And much of those social bonds are based on them caring for each other. And that's really, really important. A study with 146 different volunteers were evaluated to see if that had helped anyone in the last year to go through a stressful time. And the ones that did, they actually measured them and followed them for a period of time, and they found that there was a significantly strong relationship between those who helping others through a stressful time and their longevity. People who did not help others or have the opportunity actually were more at risk for dying and getting sick, which is kind of really interesting. Social bonds and caring for others is such an important measured benefit for us that when you don't do that, it becomes a risk factor. And one study said it was matched the detriment of other risk factors, mortality risk factors like high blood pressure, smoking, and being sedentary. So in other words, not caring for others is just as risky for your health as high blood pressure would be, being sedentary, and even smoking, which is quite amazing. Volunteering and giving your time to others and caring for others has been shown in study after study to actually extend life and to avoid sickness. Now, love, a little bit different, same basic concept. Love is really interesting. Lots of studies on love, of course. One study showed that even when all of our basic needs are met and you have everything that you need, studies said that humans will fail to flourish without loving relationships, which is really, really important. You know, they found in one study that joyful activities such as love activate certain areas of the brain responsible for emotion, attention, motivation, and memory. It influences the autonomic nervous system. It affects how you breathe. If you're feeling safe and loved, you take a relaxing breath. If you're feeling stressed, you take a quick upper chest breath. And I've written articles about over-breathing. When people are stressed, we take little breaths in, little breaths out like rabbits. We over-breathe in oxygen, which is a stimulating molecule, and we under-breathe CO2. We keep breathing out all the CO2, and CO2 is a sedative molecule. So there's a balance between the CO2 and the oxygen in your blood to keep your mood stable. So how you breathe makes you more anxious. Why when you hyperventilate, you put a paper bag over your mouth, you rebreathe CO2, which is a sedative, or even some researchers call it a tranquilizer, to chill you out and calm you down. So please read my article on overbreathing, because that's really important that you learn how to breathe and keep the balance of CO2 and oxygen quite right, because if it's not, it affects how you breathe. And not feeling loved can make you feel that's, stressed and make you into an upper chest shallow overbreather, which has problems. Acts of caring and love and kindness stimulate the production of the love and longevity hormone, oxytocin. And the cool thing about that is the more you love and give and care for others, the more oxytocin you make. The more you engage in behavior to get a response, the more you engage in behavior to get loved or to be appreciated or be approved of, the more you're stimulating a reward chemistry called dopamine, which is a self-limiting hormone, which means the more you stimulate it, the more dopamine you need to make. And if you overstimulate, the body becomes depleted in its ability to make that reward chemistry. So you feel like that reward isn't doing it for me anymore. One cup of coffee isn't doing it. One pair of shoes isn't doing it. One nice car, two nice cars. We keep needing more and more and more to get that reward chemistry to satisfy us. Where oxytocin, the more you give in love and care for others, there's an unlimited supply of oxytocin. It's the health and longevity hormone, which is pretty cool. Oxytocin has been shown to boost the anti-stress response. So it's our anti-stress response. It actually activates the hypothalamic pituitary axis, which is the HPA axis, which is the link between your brain and your gut, your brain and your microbiome and your gut. And that link is now, it's bidirectional. What you feel in your gut affects how you think, and what you think affects your gut and your bugs. And that relationship has been shown to be linked to almost every type of physiological concern. So all of a sudden, if you're not producing that love and here's the thing about love. Love is the ability to take a risk to give yourself fully to another person without expecting anything in return. If you expect anything in return, you're activating the hormone called dopamine. If you just give love and care for others, then it fills you up in a way that never ends and gives you deep levels of satisfaction. It reminds me of a study based on what's called eudaimonic giving and hedonistic giving. Hedonistic giving is when you give and you want something in return. Like, I'm giving you this gift and it's the right color and it's going to be feel beautiful, and did you like it? Did it fit? How do you like it? Do you really like it? I gave you this gift, but I really want you to tell me how much you love me and how much you think I did a great job buying you this gift. That's called hedonistic giving. Eudaimonic giving is, I saw this thing, I thought of you, and I just felt so compelled to give it to you, and I just had to give it to you, with a big fat period at the end of that. I don't need anything in return. I don't need a thank you note. I'm just giving you, and my joy is in the giving. That's called eudaimonic giving. And they measured the subtle effect of giving hedonistically or eudaimonically. And when they gave eudaimonically, it had a positive longevity benefit at the genetic level. So at epigenetic and genetic level, there was a positive shift when it was given, the gift was given in a eudaimonic way with no expectation to get anything in return. When it was given in a hedonistic way with an expectation to get something in return, it had a negative effect on the genetic code. So when you love someone, if you're loving them with the hope that they love you back and you get some approval or appreciation, they can tell on a subtle level it's not real. But when you love someone fully and give fully to them, they can tell. And they feel safe in that sunlight to open the delicate petals of their flower and let who they are, the love that they protect and armor up and kind of protect all the time, and let who they are out. And that is how we open the door to true love. Relationships based on trust, giving fully, letting the delicate petals of your flower open, let the armor kind of break down so who you are can fully get out. It's a beautiful, beautiful concept, and this is why the click, the caring and the love so far are so important for penetrating the emotional armor, because they make us feel safe enough to disarm that protective armor, that shield, and let something more authentic out. And that is your ability to access your joy, your bliss with weights inside of all of us. You don't have to go get it. Even if you're depressed or stressed out or anxious, doesn't mean you don't have it. It's just armored up and covered up. All we're doing is we're mining that aspect of you that waits for us, that joy that just sits inside of all of us and just waits for us, which is pretty cool. So love is a really, really cool thing. The next one, I, self-inquiry or introspection. This is, in Ayurveda, my favorite way of describing this is what's called Douillard. Douillard is the Veda of the bow, where you pull back the bow. It means it's the Veda of transformation. To transform you from the non-truth, experiencing the non-truth, to the truth. Giving you the ability to not engage in the behavior of non-truth, not engage in manipulating my environment and people so I get to be loved, appreciated, and approved of, but to actually feel safe enough and courageous enough to let who I am out and find the joy of loving and giving. And we have all the science to prove that that's a real thing, but very hard for us to do, right? So click, and these little mnemonic click is a way to kind of do that. So when you pull back the bow in a Douillard, which is the Veda of the bow, it's a martial art really. If you're moving the string around, I don't know where that arrow is going to land. It's not going to be precise. But if you hold that bow really still and you pull back the bow and become still and silent, Ayurveda calls it establishing being, become perfectly still. And in that silence with the bow pulled back, you then have the clarity of enhanced self-awareness that gives you the ability to choose truth or non-truth. Where, someone does something to you and you feel like, they might have hurt your feelings. You have an opportunity to respond to that with truth or non-truth. You can respond to their stress, do them, or you can respond to who you truly are, your bliss, your joy, and do you. So I'm always reminded of this story about a rose, where roses at one point didn't have thorns. And because they didn't have thorns and rose petals are edible, everybody ate rose petals, all the animals and elephants, and they trampled the roses and they ate the roses, and the roses were like, my God, this is crazy. We need some thorns to protect ourselves. So they grew thorns. And now we have roses with thorns. The point of that is that when you trample someone enough in their childhood throughout their life, they're going to grow some thorns and their behavior is going to be a little bit thorny. So if you see them irritating you, you can react to their thorns, which is the protected version of them, not really them, or you can see through the window of compassion, and through introspection, the truth of this situation. And the truth of the situation is that they're hurt. And if I throw more darts at them and be more irritated to them, I'm only going to hurt them more and therefore expect more thorny behavior. But if I can see through the window of understanding and compassion being the next C and click, it allows me to see the truth that they're hurt. And why would I want to reject or judge someone who's already hurt? So it gives me the opportunity to pull back the bow, become more self-aware, introspection, see the difference between A, react to their stress, or respond based on my truth through the window of understanding and compassion, and see that they are actually hurt and respond with love and compassion. And then that person got a dose of your truth. And that is disarming. The click will not only disarm your armor, but it will disarm the armor of the people around you. So you don't have to judge them anymore. And that's the C in compassion. And compassion has been studied and studied and studied. One research study found that it was such a powerful emotion. It linked to our evolution, that our ability to care and take care of others is such a powerful emotion. It's really, really important. They found that treating oneself, our own self, in a non-judgmental, in an acceptance way, particularly with regard to our challenges and our failures has been linked to several health outcomes, including lower perceived stress, healthier physiological response to stress, increased practice of health promoting behaviors. So when you give yourself permission to forgive yourself and be compassionate with your own self, it allows people to engage in better health practices and overall makes them healthier. But once you're compassionate with yourself, you can then do what I was saying a minute ago, you can be compassionate with others. And studies have shown that, in fact, that when you're compassionate with others, it's not only good for you, but like I said a minute ago, it's good for them. And then finally, the K in CLICK is kindness. Kindness, again, volumes of studies on kindness. Kindness releases both oxytocin and endorphins for the giver and the receiver, which is really, really powerful. It creates new neural connections that allow us to change behavior, old repetitive mental mindsets, bad habits, emotional and mental and mental imbalances. Many of us carry old protective patterns from childhood into our adult life, and we keep projecting that protective armor as behavioral patterns that we don't really like or want on the screen throughout our entire life. And kindness has been shown to increase neuroplasticity and allow us to rewrite and change some of those old patterns of behavior. Studies show that when you actually engage in acts of kindness, random acts of kindness, which is one of my favorite things to do and practice, that it actually becomes easier and easier and easier to do. So the more you practice it, the more facilitated those neural pathways, and the easier it is and it becomes for you to continue to practice kindness on a regular basis. And that allows us to begin to feel in the heat of battle when someone attacks you or you feel hurt feelings, you begin to, through these aspects of CLICK, to have the choice between door number one, react in that old judgmental way that I used to, protective, armored up way, or door number two, I now have a facilitated neural pathway that I can drive down. And as you practice these aspects of CLICK, you begin to realize that you have a level of self-awareness that allows you to do you, your true, joyful, blissful self, versus do them, which is usually reacting to a version of them that is armored up and isn't even who they are. So we're reacting to a version of them based on a version of us that isn't really who we are, as opposed to just allowing ourselves with self-awareness and clarity to engage in a version of us, a version of ourselves. That is what Ayurveda calls sattva. Sattva is described as the ability to be love, to give love, to care for others, to be kind, to be gentle, to be nonviolent. It's a state of being that has now been proven in study after study after study to strengthen your overall health, your longevity, lengthens your telomeres, your genetic code. Being sattvic and giving changes your microbiome in a positive way, which therefore changes your brain and your mood and your response to life and stress in a different way. It's something that was predicted as the foundational principle in Ayurveda for health and longevity was to live a sattvic lifestyle. CLICK is just one simple mnemonic to help us remind ourselves to be caring, to be loving, to look within, to be compassionate to others, and to be kind. And practicing random acts of kindness throughout the day when the heat's not on develops new, this is well studied, neurological patterns, pathways, facilitates new roads in your brain that make it easier for you to drive down in those stressful times. All right, check out this article with all the science. It's pretty overwhelming, pretty amazing. And remember, this crazy, simple mnemonic CLICK, when you're feeling stressed out, it may help penetrate some of that armor and allow us to do us. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Do you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe and share.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.